So what we're looking at here are some examples of various reactors that we might find in the aquarium hobby. Um, these have been sitting on my shelf for quite some time. However, at one point in time, they were all running on my system. And over the years, after understanding the concept or the idea behind each one of these reactors, I decided that I could probably improve upon it, and I made my own reactor. And as things progress, you kind of, understand that there's some room for a lot of improvement. Let's talk about this one here on the left here. This is an old ozone reactor. I believe is from a vast marine. And this one in the middle here is a bubble magus calcium reactor. Served me well. And the one on the far right is an old, I don't know the brand. It is a Kalk reactor. But they all different in application, but they all have some common theme. And if we look at this one here, you can kind of see that they use a thumb screw with a keyhole and some sort of a gasket to seal everything off. Now, this is tried and true. It seems to be working on every reactor that we see. But there's some issues that I always had when I'm having to service any one of these components. And that is that I have to loosen up all the thumb screws. I got to twist the thing off. And then if there is pipes or probes and hoses that are attached to that top lid, they have to come off as well. And then you run into, okay, I set it down somewhere, and then maybe this is full of tank water or whatever, fresh water, and then it is now siphoning on the ground. So it was never really a good solution of where I can remove that lid and kind of set it off the side. So I didn't like how any of that was worked. And I think for a lot of people, this seems to be the only method, and it works really well. There's nothing wrong with it, but can it be improved upon? Of course it can. If anybody knows me, they know that every single one of these reactors have been replaced on my tank with a version of something that I've DIY'd. I've taken these concepts. Once I understand how ozone reactor or calcium or calc reactor works, I figure that there's ways to improve upon it. And that leads me down that rabbit hole of my passion of wanting to create things anyway. So every single one of these I've created, and then there's threads out there that showcase, me building it from scratch or coming up with different ways of coming up with designs. With this lid in mind, there's a thread out there where I created a calc controller that I used a 5-foot calc reactor with, and that has been designed. And over the time of me building different ones and making them for other people, I have improved upon each iteration. And with this lid being one of the things that I've always not really liked or really enjoyed about these reactors, I've come up with a solution. So I'm going to move all this stuff out of the way real quick, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. And here's the solution to the problem. So this is the top half of my 5-foot tall calc reactor, and it has a port on top for a pH probe and the effluent on the bottom. That's irrelevant here. I'm just wanting to showcase the top and how this lid works. So instead of having to loosen up 6 thumb screws and then removing that lid and then having to contend with the probe in this case, all I got to do is I loosen up this one nut just slightly, give it a little twist, pull it on out. Now this is all 3D printed with polycarbonate, and it has 85 alpha TPU, so it's a soft rubber, 5 layers of it on the top. So it actually compresses and tightens down and seals that top lid. My reactor needs to be airtight so that it works properly, and the calcium hydroxide doesn't come into contact with CO2 in the air. Anyway, so all I got to do is put that lid back on, rotate it a little bit, tighten it down, and it is snug and it is secure. Seals all the way around. And then when it's time to service, I just loosen that slightly, move that out of the way, add my calcium hydroxide, and I'm good to go. load it back up, boom, close it. Now this is really important because there's a lot of people out there that are adding Kalk every, I don't know, 3 or 4 days, maybe even sooner, maybe even longer. My 5 foot one, I can put a entire pound in and not have to worry about servicing it for about a week and a half. But this makes it so much easier than having to remove and loosen up the thumb screws. I kind of like this idea. So that's my solution.